Before we get going, can we just do a quick sound check? I've got a slightly new setup here. Well, I've moved rooms. So can we just do a very, very quick press 1 in the chat if you can hear me loudly and clearly? I'm doing this one under the weather. If you're here at around, what, 1:45 now in the afternoon, you're about to get a treat because I'm about to get myself banned, talking about this fight. Because I am absolutely fuming with this absolute fucking disgrace of a fight. And just let's not beat around the bush. If you're in the chat, if you can please hit the like button, please support the channel, support the content. If you want to subscribe, the subscribe button's there, feel free. But look, we are not fucking around with this absolute farce of a disgrace of a fight, which basically tells, and by the way, make no fucking mistake, right? Most boxers in the sport of boxing are doping, right? And this is the reason why, by the way. Next time anybody says to you, all right, oh, but why would any fighter dope? Why would I risk my career doping? Show them this fight, all right? Show them this fight. The next time some fucking moron comes on the internet and talks some bullshit about why would he dope? Why would he risk his career by doping? Show them this fight. Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. This fight is the reason why fighters dope. This fight is the reason why fighters can risk it all. You can test positive for clomiphene, multiple times, right? You can test positive for clomiphene multiple times. Not only just testing positive for clomiphene, but correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Conor Benn tested positive for clomiphene twice after somehow being out of the WBC clean boxing program. Do you remember that shenanigan? Before he even started testing positive. Do you remember how there was a bit of a kerfuffle because he somehow forgot to register with the WBC clean boxing program? Am I correct in saying that, Conor Benn? He forgot to register for the WBC clean boxing program. And then by some kind of miracle, miraculously then tested positive twice, for clomiphene, right? Since then, right, he's got no ban from the British Boxing Board of Control, other than a provisional ban that was handed by UCAD. But he's basically circumvented a ban by fucking off to America and fighting in bingo halls, which is what he's done, right? He's circumvented, right, any sort of jurisdiction by fucking off to America and fighting in front of bingo halls, all right, in order to sort of circumvent, any sort of ban that could be imposed on him. And I just think his general conduct, in general, has been an absolute disgrace. So that's the first takeaway that you need to make, about this Conor Benn and Chris Eubank fight. And I'm going to say it loudly and clearly, okay? Anybody who thinks that these top-level fighters are not on performance-enhancing drugs, you need to go and take a hot bath, all right? You need to go and take a nice hot bath and put some Radox in it if you think that these top elite fighters are not on performance-enhancing drugs, okay? And 2, anybody who wants to think, oh, well, why would they take performance-enhancing drugs and risk their career? This fight here that you can see on the screen here, this is now the poster child for why. And again, it just says to all fighters there, up and down the country across, if you've got a big enough name, if you've got big enough lawyers, if you've got a big enough promoter, just take as much dope as you want. That's the message it sends, doesn't it? Press 1 if you agree with me on that. Press 2 if you disagree with me. And then we'll get going with the comments and I'll get going with this. Very, very, very simple. Press 1 if you agree with me on that. Press 2 if you disagree with me. Fighters up and down the country. The message is clear. If your promoter is big enough, take performance-enhancing drugs. If you can afford good enough lawyers, take performance-enhancing drugs. If your dad is a famous ex-boxer, take performance-enhancing drugs. Very, very simple. Now, Chris Eubank Jr. is an absolute fucking idiot of the highest degree for taking this fight. I don't understand. Other than money, someone needs to ask Chris Eubank, this question. Do you need the money? Like, are you broke? Do you need the money this bad? Because I have to ask the question, unless you have a Brian Burke says, Ultra, are you on PEDs? No, I'm not. But let me tell you something, Brian Burke, Ruben Amorim, needs PEDs if he's on them. We'll talk about that later, Brian Burke, Ruben Amorim, if anybody's got any clomiphene, give it to him and the Man United players because they fucking need it. Can't even beat Wolves home and away. Now, let me tell you this right now, all right? Does Chris Eubank Jr. have some kind of humiliation fetish? That's what I want to understand, Does Chris Eubank Jr. have some kind of humiliation fetish? for taking this? What is the reason for taking this fight and taking this fight with these terms? Can somebody explain this to me? Do you need the money that bad? Has he been wasting all of his money on hookers? Has he been wasting all of his money on cocaine? Has he been investing money into pyramid schemes? Has he been investing money into Anthony Joshua's property triangles? Where is all this money gone? Because for me, and I can't understand this, and that's the first thing I want you guys in the chat to let me know. I can see all your comments right now. If you want to make some comments, I'll read some of that in a second. But can I ask you a question, yeah? Chris Eubank Jr. is supposed to be the one with the upper hand in this fight. So why is he the one scrambling around like a fucking dickhead, trying to make a weight, which we know is extremely difficult for him to make? He's going to get fined 500 grand. So he's lost $500,000, which apparently, according to Mike Coppinger, is going straight to Conor Benn. So you're giving Conor Benn a free $500,000, yeah? You're fucking killing yourself to make weight. You failed to make weight. And now, basically, you can't put on another 10 pounds for the next, 24 hours or so and so. For the next 24 hours, he can't even rehydrate or eat any food or hydrate properly. What is the point of this? Do you think this is a fair question? I'm trying to understand, what is the point of this? Why? Why would you take the fight? Why would you take the fight under these terms? Like, to me, it's always been clear. Conor Benn has always needed this fight more than Chris Eubank. You guys in the chat, you tell me right now in the chat and I'll read your comments. Who needs this fight more? Eubank or Benn? To me, Benn has always needed the fight more than Eubank. Conor Benn has never fought anybody legitimate in the sport of boxing, really. Who has he actually fought? This man has avoided every single step required, yeah? Most British fighters go through a certain education, don't they? Southern area, Commonwealth, British, European, world, right? Conor Benn has skipped all of these fucking stages. The man's never won an area title. The man's never won a British title. The man's had very, very questionable decisions in the past. We all know what happened in his fight with Cedric Peyronald, which he should have lost that fight, in my opinion, the first one, right? We all know Conor Benn, yeah, has basically skipped every meaningful stage of his boxing apprenticeship, right? He's skipped every meaningful stage. And other than knocking over a couple of questionable older fighters, like Chris Algieri, Chris Van der Heerden, and such, what has he actually done in his career to actually have a fight of this magnitude? So that, I can't understand why Eubank has agreed to this fight and why Eubank has agreed to the fight on these terms. Conor Benn has just come off 2 failed drugs tests. Mate, for me, all right, I'd be putting a clause in that says Conor Benn has to make 135 pounds. Wouldn't you guys? What do you guys think? I'll go through your comments on this. Why is Eubank accommodating this man? Why is he accommodating a man who's fought absolutely nobody in their prime, right? Has no record to speak of, has no British title, has no Commonwealth title. He has nothing. Does he even have a rank? What is it? What are they fighting over? A ranking? Is there some kind of high ranking that Conor Benn has? That what does Conor Benn have that makes Chris Eubank Jr. want to get on all fours and debase himself to this level? For what? What is the fucking reason? I don't understand it. Josh Ford says Eubank held all the cards after Conor Benn failed his doping tests. Any fight should have had no weight conditions. Not sure who's advising him. I can't understand what the fuck is going on here. I mean, we'll go and look at Conor Benn in a sec. If you look at Conor Benn right now, he weighed in, right, 4 pounds under 160, right? He's just made an extra $500,000. If you look at him right now, this is Conor Benn. This is Conor Benn right now in his dressing room, having a good old laugh because Chris Eubank Jr. has failed to make weight. This is what happens to people, right, who fail multiple doping tests in this country. Never ask me again why a fighter would take dope in the sport of boxing. The reason why a fighter would take dope or in the sport of boxing is right in front of your screen. Makes an extra $500,000. This is what happens. Circumvents any form of ban, makes an extra £500,000, and is now fucking sitting there lauding it up on social media. Where the guy who hasn't failed a fucking dopes test is literally now starving himself to death to make a fight that should never be. It should never be. For what reason? Dazza, big up Dazza. He says Eubank is a greedy fool for agreeing to the dehydration clause. Dan W says it's for money and money only. Eubank sees it as an easy fight. Ben has been forced to take the fight because Hearn is desperate to cash him in. Michael Thompson says Ben has been smashing up super middleweight William Scott in sparring, but needs a weight clause for this fight. Look, I'm going to be very, very careful what I say, yeah, because I have a lot of respect for Conor Benn, because at the end of the day, he is a fighting man who risks his life in the boxing ring, right? Whether you want to talk about failed drugs tests, that's a completely different subject. But for me, he always gets a certain level of respect because he's a fighting man doing something that I could never do, something that I'm not man enough to do, something that I'm not strong enough to do, something that I haven't got a big enough balls to do, and he risks his life in the ring. So because of that, we must pay a certain level of respect to Conor Benn. But I want to say something very quickly before I read some of your comments here, and then I want you to tell me in the chat, do you agree with me, yes or no, and give me your comment. And I want you to understand, you hear what I've just said, yeah? I've just said we have to pay a certain level of respect to Conor Benn that we would to any fighting man who goes and risks their life in the ring. But I'm going to be 100% honest and say this. In boxing terms, Conor Benn is a fraud. Is that a harsh comment or not? Let's just go for it, right? Conor Benn's a fraud in boxing terms, right? He's a fraud, right? He has no record to speak of, right? The only reason he ever got a contract with Matchroom Boxing, right? He wasn't even a top amateur. He never not only has he skipped every single level of apprenticeship that every other British fighter would have done, in the amateurs, he was never a top amateur. I actually follow Conor Benn on Twitter when nobody followed him, you know. I follow Conor Benn from day one on Twitter. I followed Conor Benn on day one, yeah, when this guy was a kid living in Australia. And he had a couple of amateur fights, like a couple of white collars, a couple of amateurs here or there, right? But nobody knew who he was. Nobody was blowing smoke up his ass. And he wasn't going to become a really professional boxer. There was no like fucking, oh, this guy's an incredible amateur. Oh, this guy's very talented. No, he was picked up by Matchroom Boxing for one reason and one reason only. He was picked up by Matchroom Boxing on the strength of his second name. That's all he is, yeah? So what is this about? I mean, in boxing terms, let's just call it how it is. Let's call a spade, right? The guy is an absolute fraud from top to bottom. Whether you want to look at failed drugs tests, whether you want to look at his record, who he's fought, if you want to look at who he hasn't fought, if you want to look at, you know, the fact that he's never fought for a British, never fought for a Commonwealth, skipped a whole load of stages, the whole shebang. In boxing terms, this guy, Conor Benn, no disrespect, he has got fraud written absolutely all over him from top to bottom. From top to bottom, there's so many unanswered questions. There's so many dodged questions. And what is this all about? What is this all about? What, so Nigel Benn can get his win back? Because let's be honest, guys. This is what this is all about, isn't it? Right? Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. don't even have any beef. Let's be real, isn't it? Right? And I'll go through your comments in just a sec, but I want to make it clear. That's how many people are being suckered into this absolute nonsense. These two lads don't even have any real. What's the beef between them? Other than a failed drugs test, yeah? But what's the beef? It's all fraudulent. It's all fabricated. These two don't have any beef with each other. What's this for? My dad beat your dad. No, let's tell it how it is, right? Nigel Benn has never gotten over the fact that he could never beat Chris Eubank Jr., yeah? So his son is somehow now fighting for his dad's legacy, quote unquote. This is what this is all about. If you actually want to know what this is really all about, this is all about the ego of Nigel Benn and Nigel Benn not being able to cope with being stopped in 6 rounds by Chris Eubank Jr. about 25, 30 years ago. That's what this is about. If we want to get to the nuts and bolts of it, because there's no beef between these two. There's no beef between Eubank and Benn. Other than a failed drugs test, there's no beef. There's no reason for these two to dislike each other. If you look, they're in like fucking 3 weight classes apart. Think about it. They're not really in the same weight class. They're not really rivals for the same belts. They're not rivals for anything. They're years. Mark Stanton, bang on. If Eubank and Junior, if Junior and Benn were close in age, it makes no sense. Nothing about this rivalry makes any sense. In nothing about it makes sense. They're in 2 different weight classes. They're like fucking 15 years apart in age. They come from completely different backgrounds. They never had anything. It's a joke. The whole card, the whole show is absolutely fraudulent. This is a money grab of the highest order. This is a money grab, all right? The failed drugs tests that, in my opinion, this is my opinion, right? The failed drugs tests that were incorrectly unpunished, right? The failure of the media to ask questions about what happened. Let me ask you a question now, right? Guys in the chat, has any journalist asked Conor Benn this question? Yes or no in the chat? Has any journalist asked Conor Benn, how many times have you been drug tested in the run-up to this fight? And when did those drug tests take place? Yes or no in the chat? Has any journalist asked that simple this guy's come off 2 failed tests, man. Am I right or am I wrong? This man on the right has come off 2 failed drugs tests. Has anybody in the media asked a simple fucking question? How many drugs tests have you had in the last 6 to 12 months? And what were the dates of those tests? Like, there's simple ABCs and 1, 2, 3s that I would like to know. I'd love to know. If anybody's asked that, can you let me know? Can you let me know what the answers were? I find it remarkable. I find it remarkable how somebody can fail two drugs tests, and I haven't seen one journalist ask him, hey, you know you've already failed 2 drugs tests, yeah? You know you're going into this big fight there that you failed 2 tests for before. When was the last time you were dope tested for this fight? When were the dates of the dope tests? Are we not entitled to know how many, like, if anybody's been testing this guy? Yes or no in the chat? What do you think? Do you not think we have a right to know, like, how many times this guy's been tested? He's already failed twice. Do we not need to know how many times has he been tested? When has he been tested? Who has he been tested by? What were the results of the test? Do we not need to know that? Or what? Or do we just, what? Is this guy been tested at all? Has he been tested? It's pathetic. And we're letting this guy, who's already failed 2 fucking tests, right? He's already failed 2 fucking tests. And we're going to let him jump in the ring, yeah, tomorrow night and punch a weight-drained opponent in the fucking back of the head. Is that what we're going to allow tomorrow, yeah? That's what we're going to allow. We're going to allow somebody who's failed 2 dope tests. I've had no idea. We don't know how many times this guy's been tested. But all I know is a bunch of promoters are going to let this guy jump in the ring and punch a weight-drained man in the head tomorrow night, yeah? When there's big question marks about what's in this guy's system. It just shows you how fucking disgusting this is. And it just shows you how fucking desperate, yeah, all involved are. And that's what this fight is about. Do you know what the tagline for this fight should be, guys? Desperation. Desperados. That's what you call this. Desperados. It's a joke. Desperados. No wonder Eubank Sr. wants no fucking part of this fight. He wants no part of it. Scott says it's a money grab. So what if the fighters are getting paid? So what? Josh Ford says about Conor Benn's drug testing, they're not allowed to ask him about anything, only fawn all over him, or they'll be... I mean, look, you want to talk about fraudulent. Can somebody explain to me this Ring Magazine belt? What's this doing in the middle of the 2 fighters? What's this? What's this? Ring Magazine Award World Championship. Can somebody explain to me what kind of world titles on the line for this fraudulent fight? Can you see this crap here? This fraudulent Ring Magazine belt? Ring Magazine Award World Championship. What the fuck is that doing in the middle of these 2? Neither of these 2 have ever been legitimate world champions, unless you count the IBO. Conor Benn hasn't even fought for a British. So what's he doing standing in the middle of a fucking Ring Magazine World Championship? But this is what you guys want, yeah? This is what you guys want from His Excellency, but you've done crawled up this guy's ass. This fucking guy has come out of nowhere, right? This Turkey Al-Sheikh has come out of nowhere, and you guys are crawling up his fucking ass, making rap videos. You know that rap video I'm talking about Turkey? Turkey, ooh la la, Turkey, inshallah. You know that rap video I'm talking about? Bumming Turkey Al-Sheikh. You guys so quick to bend over and bum for this guy. And now a few people are starting to clock in and go, what the fuck does this Turkey Al-Sheikh actually stand for? Like, just stop blowing smoke up his batty for 2 seconds. What does this guy stand for? For this? This is what the Ring Magazine are doing, yeah? This guy on the right failed 2 fucking dope tests. This guy on the left has never even been a world champion. Pathetic. Absolutely fucking pathetic. Let's have a look here at some earlier comments. I'm going to get on to Frank Smith. It's just, look, let me quickly do Frank Smith now. You guys are asking about Frank Smith. This is just unbelievable. Look, I don't care. People are going to have a go at me, but I'm just going to tell you how it is. Shout out to Boxing King Media. Shout out to Boxing King Media. I'm not going to play the entire video. I'm just going to show you a still from it. This is how embarrassing the sport of boxing has become. Frank Smith had the nerve to sit up on stage and show his face. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? This clown. Look at this. Look. Look at this fucking idiot here. Look. Let me tell you something, right? With fucking in-laws like this, who needs enemies, innit? Hey? With fucking in-laws like this, who fucking needs enemies? I don't know how fucking Chris Eubank Jr. sleeps at night. Do you? Do you? I don't know how Chris Eubank Jr. sleeps at night. Do you? With this man as a brother-in-law. Jesus fucking Christ. This man, hey, how'd you go? When your own brother-in-law is willing to sell you out for a couple of quid, fuck me. Talk about the weight of the world on your shoulders, isn't it? You ain't spoken to your dad in 3 years, right? You ain't spoken to your father in 3 years. You've got a fucked up relationship with your father. You ain't had a meal in about 3 years because you're 160 pounds right now, and you've got to make you can't put on more than 10 quid, 10 pounds, yeah, before tomorrow's weigh-in. And you've got this guy as a fucking brother-in-law. Hey, imagine that. This man sleeping in the same bed as your sister, right? And your opponent was failing drugs tests, and he didn't even fucking tell you, you know. Fucking hell. Your opponent, hey, this guy, this fucking clown, is sleeping in the same bed as your fucking sister every night, you know. Hey, he's supposed to be your family. Hey, your opponent failed 2 fucking dope tests. He's going to let you get in the ring and get punched in the fucking head, you know. You don't care. You don't fucking care. Boxing is an absolutely ruthless sport, you know. An absolutely ruthless fucking sport. Absolutely ruthless sport. That's all I can say about it. Taylor says, Ultra, accept it. Boxing as we know is dead. This is a new era, all fake, just money and narcissists, super egos, no substances. Scott says, you are moron, silly cunt. What you on about? 2 men want to fight. What's the problem? It happens daily on the streets. No, you're a fucking moron, mate, because you've never clearly boxed any lick in your life, mate. Because if you've never taken a punch in it with gloves on, mate. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You need to stay on Sesame Street, bro. Don't talk about the daily on the streets. Only streets you know about is fucking Sesame Street. You've got no idea about what happens in a boxing ring. It's dangerous, mate. And if you had any kind of like, you know, experience in a gym or taking punches in the head chair from people, then you'd actually understand how dangerous the sport is. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's carry on here. Dan W says Turkey is fast destroying the goodwill he accumulated with this Ring magazine stuff is nonsense. Yeah, look at this I mean, I've never, you know, it's a magazine to me, but this is what they want to replace the WBC title with and all these belts with. Do you know what I mean? That's what they want to replace the WBC title with. This nonsense here, just ridiculous for me. Josh Ford says, so Turkey wanted rid of the ABC belts to put fake silly ring belts in. This is what people want, though. This is what people want from Turkey Al Sheikh. This is what people want from Turkey Al Sheikh. This is what you wanted, so you get what you pay for. It is what it is. Chris Welch says, do you still think the fight goes ahead? I'd rather we didn't have it in the first place. Well, you can already hear the slathering fucking Weatherspoons morons, yellow sticker food in Tesco morons in the comment section saying, it's a fucking fight. What do you care? It's a fight. It's a fight. It's just like any fight on the street. Boxing is absolutely 100% completely different to street fighting. Like anybody who thinks boxing and street fighting are the same is a complete fucking moron. Like literally, like you're a fucking moron. Like, so that's how I know, yeah, straight away, yeah. This person, obviously, anybody who comes up with that kind of talk has never actually been in a box or never actually done any sparring or never done anything. When you start equating boxing with street fighting, they're like 2 fucking completely different things. Boxing and street fighting is 2 different things. They're 2 different sports. It's extremely fucking dangerous, but you can hear the Tesco food, yellow sticker eating massive there. lapping this shit up. What's the problem? Do you know what he says? He says, what's the problem about a fucking drugs cheat punching a weight drain fighter in the head? Just think now, right? Think. We've got 178 in the chat. If you'd like to hit the like button, please hit the like button. Please support. You want the wrong? I'm telling you, this is how we get Labour government. How do we get a Labour government? This is how we got a Labour government. Because these people, right, who spend a living eating this, look, you want to know the truth? Look, here you go. It's on the screen. They spend it eating this. Yellow sticker food, reduced food. This is what happens to your brain cells when you eat too much yellow sticker food, right? What's the problem, Ultra? It's the same as the street. He's only failed 2 drugs tests. We'll let him get in the boxing ring and punch a man in the head who's currently, starving himself, who's fucking starving himself. And you know what? It's always the same. Eventually, down the line, we'll get. And you know what? I want to go on to Nigel Benn, yeah, because Nigel Benn, yeah, has to be one of the biggest fucking hypocrites. Press 1 if you agree with me. Press 2 if you disagree with me on this, right? I'm interested to know your opinions, right? As long as you're not disrespectful, we can have a chat. It's fine, yeah? Let me know your opinions on this. Here's my opinion. Nigel Benn is one of the biggest fucking hypocrites in all of boxing. Press 1 if you agree with me. Press 2 if you disagree. This guy's an absolute fucking disgrace, He lorded up about Joel McLennan, when he, like Nigel Benn, he's fucking meeting Joel McLennan. He's talking about how dangerous it is, how dangerous boxing is and all this shit. Look at this fucking guy, Nigel Benn. You absolute fucking hypocrite, Nigel Benn. You fucking hypocrite. You turn it around talking about how dangerous the sport is. Oh, crying over Joel McLennan and all this fucking shit. Meanwhile, your fucking son who failed 2 dope tests about to get in the ring with somebody who can't even make the weight. How dangerous is that, Nigel? Because somebody asked Nigel Benn that. How dangerous is that? Your son's about to get in the ring. He's failed 2 fucking drugs tests. He's about to get in the ring with somebody who can't even make weight. This man here, Chris Eubank Jr., yeah, killed himself, right? He's now 160.2 pounds. He can't even put on 10 more pounds. He's going to step in a ring tomorrow and get punched in the head round after round after round now with 8 to 10 ounce gloves. That's what's going to happen. Look, should we show you the picture of what he looked like? Let me get up the picture of what happened last time he had to make weight, just so you can get a picture, because we haven't seen the videos of Eubank yet, yeah? But this is what he looked like last time he tried to make weight. So we're gonna show you, right? This is the state of him last time. So this was for the fight that was called off, right? This is Eubank making 160. This is what he looks like. Look at the state of this. Look at the state of this. Look at this shit. That's Chris Eubank Jr. last time. The scales are 159.3. That's about what he's looking like right now. You're going to put that in the ring to get punched in the fucking head by somebody who's failed 2 dope tests. And nobody's got any concern about the safety of the fighters involved. What do you think in the chat? I'll start reading your comments again. Am I right or am I wrong for being concerned about the safety of the fighters? This is why I call Nigel Benn a hypocrite. This is why I call Nigel Benn a hypocrite. And again, I want to make it clear, this is not Eubank today. This is Eubank for the previous fight. But this is what Eubank looks like, we think, because this is Eubank at 159 pounds. Does that make sense? So this is what this is about what he is now. This morning, Chris Eubank was 160.2. Here in this picture, which is from the last fight, he was 159.3. So this is Chris Eubank Jr. about what he looks like with a pound off here or there. And nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying nothing about the safety aspects of this fight. Nobody. And you know why I'm raising it now? Because like I said before, if something does happen to Chris Eubank, and I pray it doesn't, and it probably won't, but if something does happen to Chris Eubank, if he falls into a coma after the fight, or if he has to have oxygen after the fight, it's going to make all involved look absolutely disgraceful. It's going to make the sport of boxing disgraceful. Do you know back in the day that members of parliament used to campaign for this sport to be banned? Am I right about that, guys? Am I wrong? Did we not have campaigns, about stopping the sport of boxing in this country? How many people have you seen say boxing's a barbaric sport, it should be banned? This is the kind of reason why they're reluctant to teach boxing to young. I think boxing should be taught in schools. I've always thought boxing should be taught in schools. But these idiots, and the way these idiots behave, and the way these idiots, portray the sport of boxing is exactly the reason why people get turned off from the sport. Let's have a look at Michael Thompson. He says, if he can't, exactly Michael Thompson, who's boxed, by the way, guys. Michael Thompson says, if he can't get that 0.05 off, exactly. Exactly. The fact that Chris Eubank Jr. weighed in at 160.2 this morning, that he couldn't get off that last quarter of or whatever it was. He couldn't get off that last drip of sweat to make the weight. What does that tell you? It tells you that he's going through hell, didn't he? It tells you that he's absolutely going through hell. Let's go through some other comments. Just trying to go through. Gabriella Byzantine says, I just saw Eubank Jr.'s Instagram stories. He's drowning in his own sweat, going through hell for this fight. For what reason? What's the reason? I don't understand why Eubank's doing this. Why is Eubank doing this? I would love to know from you guys. Why is he doing this? If it's all about money, then he hasn't been managing his finances rightly, surely. He hasn't been managing his finances right, surely. It hasn't been. Dad's Army, the fight is very much on. The fight is nowhere near off. The fight is very much on. I just believe the fight is a farce. We have got 227 people in this chat. We're going to carry on for a little bit longer. If you'd like to, please press the like button and support this channel. Because let's be honest, nobody else is going to ask these questions. Let's just be honest with it, right? Nobody else is going to ask these questions about what the fuck is going on with this fight. Again, like I said before, if you're Chris Eubank Jr., like I said before, you've got your brother-in-law who's backing people who fail drugs tests, right? So even your own brother-in-law who sleeps with your sister every night don't want to see you win, yeah? I mean, it's an absolute fucking disaster. Chris Eubank Sr. wants no part of this, right? Am I right about that? Chris Eubank Sr. knows it's a fucking farce. He wants absolutely no part of this because he is, yeah, one of the biggest pea-brain morons out there. But even Chris Eubank Sr. can smell the shit on this fight like from a mile away. Chris Eubank Jr. can smell the shit on this fight from a senior, can smell the shit surrounding this fight he doesn't want anything to do with it. He don't want anything to do with it because Chris Eubank Sr. can smell that somewhere down the line there is the potential for something to go really, really badly wrong in this fight. That's why he doesn't want anything to do with it. That's why he doesn't want anything to do with it. Because he's like, well, if my son doesn't wake up, or if my son gets injured in this fight, or if my son, suddenly something happens to my son, I can't fucking sleep at night. That's why Eubank Sr. don't want to do it. He's like, if something happens to my son and I support my son getting in the ring with somebody who's failed a drugs test twice, yeah, I know my son can't make the weight. I know my son can't make the weight, but my son's going to get in the ring anyway and do it for the money. So my son's going to go into this fight, right, with not a lot of water. Because that's what happens, right? You guys know, yeah? When you drain yourself, right, the amount of fluid around your brain is a lot lower, right? You guys understand that, yeah? So when you're taking punches to the head, you've got a lot less cushion because you're draining away all the fluid that surrounds your brain that would normally help to cushion your brain from the impact. You've lost a lot of that because you're fucking draining yourself to death, yeah? To fight for Lord knows what. So then you get punched in the head and then something happens. But Chris Eubank Sr. just smells. He just smells that there's something potentially could go really, really wrong with this fight. And he doesn't want to end up like this absolute disgrace of here, Frank Smith. So that's why he wants nothing to do with it. He don't want nothing to do with it. Oscar Hughes says, something so disgusting to me about Hearn rubbing it in Junior's face that he's going to basically have to... Eddie Hearn's behavior, look, again, I will get accused of being anti-Eddie Hearn. We've discussed this multiple times, right? We'll get up Eddie Hearn, right? Because a few of you in the comments have been asking me to discuss Eddie Hearn. Press 7 if you agree with me on this. Press 8 if you disagree with me on this. Let me know what you think about this. I've said this before, right? I'm not changing my opinion. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Eddie Hearn should have had his promoter's license taken away for his conduct over the Conor Benn drug test scandal. For me, his license should have been taken away. His license should have been suspended. Because for me, his behavior, not just this week, not just at the press conference when he was shoving other promoters, which I thought, by the way, and you see my video on that, I thought, again, I am no fan of Ben Shalom, but I thought Hearn's conduct at that press conference when there was a brawl going on the stage, yeah, and he's running around shoving promoters instead of diffusing the situation, right? He's running around on stage shoving promoters. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Eddie Hearn, Edward John Hearn is his full name. I think Edward John Hearn is a bully. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think he's a bully. I think Edward John Hearn only fights people who aren't his size. He only pushes people who aren't his size. He only confronts people who he thinks won't hit him back. This is why he's happy about pushing Ben Shalom on stage and doing the things that he's doing. He's a playground bully, right? The guy has absolutely no balls in that sack whatsoever, in my opinion. Exactly, Dan W. And all the stuff, the way he's conducting himself, he's talking about it's on site. On site for who? As I've said before, you are a promoter. Shut your mouth and let the fighters fight. Do you think I'm right about that? Press Z, you think I'm right. Press A, you think I'm wrong. These promoters getting up on stage talking like they're going to... Have you heard Eddie Hearn recently? He keeps referring to we in these IFL TV interviews. Have you noticed that, guys, in the chat? Where instead of saying Conor Benn's going to win, he keeps saying we're going to win. We're going to get the KO. No, you're not going to do anything because you went to boarding school. You've never had a fight in your life. You went to boarding school, all right? You went to boarding school with Jodie Marsh. Ask Jodie Marsh about her experiences in boarding school with Eddie Hearn. You went to a lovely, posh boarding school. Your dad was a multi-millionaire and you had one of the best educations in the history of this country. You've never been in danger. You're not from the streets. And do you know what the funny thing is? How he walks around with all these people. Look, I'm a person of color, so I can say this. He's walking around with all these people of color, like the Chisoras and the Benns, like he's from that life, bro. Eddie Hearn probably never saw a black man in his life until he was like 20 years old. What do you guys think about that, Eddie Hearn? This guy probably never interacted with a black man in his life till he was like 20 years old. And he's walking around like he's from the street. He's talking about on site. You absolute clown. You went to a boarding school. What are you talking about on site, laddie? You went to boarding school, lad. You didn't even you went to one of the softest schools of all time, lad. You probably never even saw a black man till you was 20, my lad. And you're sitting in here talking about it's on site. Because what? Because you're fucking dicking a 20-year-old. Is that what it is, Sky Nicholson? You're dicking up a 20-year-old broad, yeah? So now you start using what is fucking lingo on site. Listen, man, this sport is fucked. Do you understand? Promoters talking like they're fighters. You are not a fighter. You absolute clown. On site. You absolute clown. I'm just going to tell you how it is. So I think him, honestly, his license to promote should have been suspended. Because in my opinion, and I've got to be careful because of the lawyers, but this is my humble opinion about Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, helped Conor Benn to circumvent his rightful punishment, in my opinion. Like, that's my opinion. Like, this guy, let me say it another way. Conor Benn was provisionally suspended by UKAD, right? Conor Benn was provisionally suspended by UKAD because he failed multiple drugs tests, right? A normal promoter would say, do you know what? I'm not going to put this guy in the boxing ring because what we need to do is we need to actually have the full UKAD investigation. UKAD need to get all the information, right? They need to know how these drugs got in Conor Benn's system, which we still don't know to this day, by the way. We still don't know to this day how these drugs got in Conor Benn's system, but we'll come back to that in a minute, yeah? But they need to provide all the information to UKAD and all the information. And then once we've made a decision over how these drugs got into Conor Benn's system, then we're in a position to know if it's safe to put him in the ring with an opponent or not. That was the correct process, in my opinion, to follow. What do you guys think? Yes or no? Do you agree with me with that or not? Do you think the correct process for Eddie Hearn was to wait for UKAD to receive all of the evidence, yeah? Encourage Conor Benn to be transparent. Conor, give him all your tests, Conor, give them the scientific evidence of how clomiphene got into your system on at least 2 different fucking occasions, Conor. Give them that. Give them all the scientific evidence. And then once we understand how these performance-enhancing drugs got in your system, then we can make a decision over whether it's safe to put you in the ring with an opponent and risk their life or not. But Eddie Hearn never did that, did he? He never did that. He was putting him on in fights, wasn't he? He was putting him on in fights in different countries to get around that provisional suspension by UKAD. That tells me all you need to know. His promotional license, in my opinion, it should have been taken away. I think he's an absolutely disgrace of a promoter, Eddie Hearn. And not only is it a disgrace of a promoter, he's a promoter that is getting absolutely found out right now. I tell you what, I have to be honest and say, I was right about this guy all along. He's a fantastic marketer. I'll never take that away. He's a fantastic salesman. He's a fantastic hype man. I will never take that away from him. But in terms of his ability to build a stable, his stable is looking dry. Am I right or am I wrong? This is what you're seeing. That's why this pay-per-view between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. needs to be called Desperados. That's what this is. This is all about a bunch of desperate people. Eddie Hearn is desperately trying to get a big fight on at DAZN. Ben Shalom is desperately trying to get, one of his associates involved in a big fight. And Nigel Benn is desperately trying to get some kind of W in the column for the Benn family. Guys, let's go through your comments. Let's go through all of your comments. Give me all your comments. If I haven't read them, give me all of your comments on the situation. Listen, the fight's going to go ahead, but the fight is an absolute farce. And you know, I'm saying it now. I'm saying it now just because if anything happens in this fight, you know, I don't want people who supported this fight and backed this fight to then turn around and go, oh, R.I.P. Chris Eubank, R.I.P. Because you know what happens, innit? People support these kind of these farces, these farcical fights. People support these farcical fights, and then when something goes wrong, they're the first ones on Twitter. They're the first ones on social media. R.I.P. Oh my God, I hope he's okay. Oh, he's in a coma. Oh, I hope he's okay. Oh, I hope he's all right. Oh my, boxing's such a dangerous sport. Boxing's such a dangerous sport. If it's such a dangerous sport, why are you guys making it more dangerous? Fights like this make the sport more dangerous, not less dangerous. Fights like this make the sport more dangerous, not. Like I said before, you don't even know, when was this guy last tested? Genuinely, does anybody know when was Conor Benn last drug tested? And by which agency was he drug tested by? I mean, if I was Chris Eubank Jr., I would have it that this guy has to go through random blood and urine testing for at least 3 months in the run-up to this fight. What do you guys think about that? I'd have had that in any contract, that this guy has to be subjected to random blood and urine testing for a 3-month period in the run-up to the fight, and as early and as often as possible. I would absolutely get that in the contract. Do you think I would miss a beat, on drug testing? With this guy's fucking record of failing to, and again, I'm not saying that Conor Benn intentionally took drugs, but it's a fact he's already failed 2 tests. Mate, I'm asking for blood and urine, regular and random, 3 months at least in the run-up to the fight. So how much has he been tested then? Ab says, if you're an up-and-coming boxer, well, there you go. We all know that. I mean, Matchroom are just having a merit them. And it's Stephen Butterworth thinks nothing will happen. Ben isn't that good at all, mate. We've already seen Chris Eubank Jr. get knocked out by Liam Smith. Now, granted, half of that was a fucking elbow to the head, but, you know, we've seen Eubank, you know, get hurt badly in the ring before. He's not got an unbeatable chin. We've seen Liam Smith put him out in a couple of rounds. And he's drained to death. He's absolutely drained to death at the minute. Merryman says, I went to boarding school and represented England at rugby. That's incredible, by the way. That's an incredible achievement. I went to boarding school and represented England in rugby at 1988, but fractured my skull in 1990. So don't say anyone weak or soft just because of boarding school must be terrible to people. No, that is the case. If I said that everybody at boarding school is weak, which I don't think I said that, actually, but no, I agree with you. I don't think I said everybody who goes to boarding school is weak. But what I'm saying is, right, the bottom line of it is, right, we're not talking about physical strength, right? We're talking about, the kind of characters and the kind of situations you get into. In boarding school, let's be honest, you're not fucking mixing it with pushers. You're not mixing it with dealers. You're not mixing it with the kind of people that realistically, when they get to 16 years old, are going to be spending the rest of their lives in Feltham young offenders and then graduating onto prison before that. You're not dealing with those class of people. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the point I'm trying to make. So I'm just trying to go through some of these comments. Let's have a look here. Beat Haven says, imagine the shit that Eubank Jr. would have got if the roles were reversed. Exactly. I can't understand, again, why it's so important for Chris Eubank Jr. to take this fight. Your dad's already beaten his dad. So what's the point of you taking this fight for? I mean, it just makes no sense. But like I said before, it is what it is, isn't it? Maybe his money situation isn't as good as we originally thought. I mean, listen, it is what it is. Blah 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 blah. I'm trying to go through so many comments. 1-2 Pivot says, Ultra, what about Ben Shalom? He negotiated. Ben Shalom isn't. 1-2 Pivot says, what about Ben Shalom? Ben Shalom's an absolute joke. I don't know what you guys are asking me questions, and I don't know how to. Ben Shalom shouldn't be promoting. Ben Shalom shouldn't have a contract on Sky Sports. The best thing that Sky Sports can do is take Boxer, pack them up, and put Boxer in the trash bucket. All right, Boxer don't even belong on the compost heap. That's how bad Boxer are. Boxer don't even belong on the fucking compost heap. That's what an absolute disgrace of a promotion they are. And Ben Shalom is an absolute clown who doesn't belong in the sport of boxing. Have I answered that question clearly for you? Ben Shalom is an absolute clown who does not belong in the sport of boxing. Too weak for the sport of boxing. Getting pushed around by idiot and too weak for the sport of boxing, mate. Too weak and too incompetent. That's my opinion. I mean, the guy is the dictionary definition of incompetence. He's another overprivileged Brunel University student who's fucking managed to talk and bullshit and bluff his way into a position that he should never be in. All right? Ben Shalom is your average office middle manager anywhere in the UK. For those of you who work office jobs, including myself, yeah? All right? You guys know, anybody who's ever worked an office job, we've always had them middle managers or them senior manager. And you're thinking, this guy can barely fucking tie his own shoelaces. How in the fuck has he managed to find himself in the position that he's in? Like, this guy, honestly, do you know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of guy that has to remember how to breathe. Like, he's completely, we've all worked for these absolute complete morons. And you're sitting there thinking, whose dick did this guy have to suck to get in this job? Because this guy is absolutely clueless, right? Absolutely clueless. And that's what Ben Shalom is. Ben Shalom is just your average office middle manager, all right? You know, he's just your average office middle manager. Plain and simple. He's a yes. Excuse me. He's a yes, sir, 3 bags full man. Isn't that true about Shalom? Ben Shalom. He's just a yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. You know, please don't put the tip in, sir. That's Ben Shalom. So of course they're gonna have a field day with him. I mean, this is a guy who can't even send the right contract to Liam Cameron. He's sending one contract to fucking Ben Whittaker, and he's sending another contract to Liam Cameron. I mean, he can't even get a contract right. He doesn't even know the fucking. He doesn't even know how many rounds. This Boxer, we didn't even know. Going into their biggest fight of the year thus far, we didn't actually know until 2 days before the fight happened how many rounds the fight was going to be. I've never seen that happen in the history of boxing promotion. 2 days into the biggest fight of your calendar year, and we don't actually know how many fucking rounds these fighters are. How can you bet on that, by the way? I know some of you are obsessed with betting. I'm not. How can you bet on a fight where you don't even know the amount of rounds the fight's going to be? How do you bet on something like that? That's Boxer. Incompetence to the fucking highest degree. But you know who you got to blame for that? You got Adam Smith to blame for that. That's the truth about it. He only got in because of this guy. I told you, it's all linked. I keep telling you guys, this is all linked. He only ever got into boxing because he was brought into boxing by this absolute moron. This guy. This absolute See, can you see what I'm saying? Incompetency breeds incompetency. This idiot, Adam Smith, was a complete incompetent moron. The worst head of boxing Sky Sports have ever seen. Yeah, he's the reason for Sky Sports Boxing collapsing. If you want to know the reason why Sky Sports Boxing is absolutely on its ass right now, look, this is the guy. This is him. And like I keep saying, I'm glad he's fine. I'm glad he's over his health problems. And I hope he stays healthy. And I hope he stays happy for the rest of his life. But I'm talking purely about boxing. This guy is the definition. Press 1 if you agree with me, press 2 if you disagree with me. Adam Smith, he is the definition of incompetency. The definition of it. One of the most incompetent people in the history of boxing. And that's how, you know, an incompetent Ben Shalom was able to get into Sky. Because of this idiot. Again, it's incompetency breeds incompetency. This is what happens. Idiocy breeds idiocy. This guy knows nothing about boxing, so he hires somebody who also knows nothing about boxing. This guy's never been in a fucking ring before. We've already seen the footage of Adam Smith on the pads. We know how this guy's got no idea. This guy can't even do a sit-up properly. Yeah? This guy can't even do a fucking sit-up properly. So, of course, you're making the head of boxing in a sport with high-profile elite athletes doing one of the most fucking cardio and muscular intense sports on earth. Of course you would. And, of course, he would give Ben Shalom an exclusive deal with Sky. Exactly, Joe. It's the blind leading the blind. Ben Shalom is a disaster, but Ben Shalom only got the job because this guy's a disaster. And by the way, before we move back onto Eubank and Ben to finish off, you want to talk about failing up? Do you guys want to talk about failing up? Look at Adam Smith. Completely failed at Sky Sports, and we'll look at what he does. He ends up on the Zone. Oh, how coincidental. He ends up on the Zone. But he's supposed to be working in the best interest of Sky, isn't he, right? He's not supposed to be working in the best interest of Matchroom. He's supposed to work for Sky Sports. He's supposed to be driving a hard bargain with Matchroom, but he lets Matchroom walk all over him during his tenure at Sky Sports, right? And then miraculously ends up basically working for them over at the Zone. Wow. How did that happen? Must be a conspiracy, right? Must be a conspiracy. It's almost like they're all fucking mates behind the scenes, scratching each other's backs, isn't it? You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. This absolute incompetent fool destroyed boxing on Sky Sports and somehow falls into a fucking commentary gig. Of all the people that you could get doing commentary on the Zone, of all the people, of all the ex-boxers, guys that have actually been in the ring, done the rounds, done the graft, know what it's like to have a fight, of all the people that you could get commentating on boxing, they have to hire this fucking moron here on the right-hand side of your screen. It's corruption. That's what this is. This is corruption. That's what's going on in British boxing. Everything you see is corruption. The reason why the journalists can't ask Conor Benn, how many times have you been drug tested in the run-up to this fight? The reason why journalists are reluctant to ask Conor Benn, how did Comafine get into your system? What was the reason? Can you tell us? Was it eggs? Did you overconsume too many eggs? Was that the reason? Or did you take a supplement that you wanted to take? What was the reason that you drugs test? Questions that the British public all want to know, but everything you can see right now is all a result of corruption. Plain and simple. This is backhanders. I'll scratch my back, you scratch my back. You don't answer these questions, I'll give you access. You don't ask these questions, I'll give you tickets. You don't answer these questions, I'll give you an interview. This is what's going on. British boxing is actually, I mean, look at the Liam Cameron stoppage against Ben Whittaker last weekend. How much more do you need to see that British boxing is in an absolutely disgraceful state with that stoppage? How much more do you need to see? How much more do you need to see? How many more suspicious stoppages do you need to see? How many more failed drugs tests do you need to see? How much more do you need to see? How many more of these fake journalists do you need to see? How many more, how much more do you need to see? Guys, get your final comments in. Final comments. Josh Ford says, never seen anyone look more out of place in a sport than Adam Smith. It's a disgrace. I'm reluctant to criticize the guy because, like I said, he's been through hell. And like I said, I'm very happy he's healthy and I hope he stays healthy. And I'm glad he's doing something that he likes. But Adam Smith should never, ever... Listen, boxing commentary is for people who have actually been in the fucking ring. Yeah? Paulie Malignaggi, Sean Porter. These guys know what it's like to be in the ring. These guys know what it's like to be in stadium fights. These guys know what it's like to be in the ring against elite opponents. Does that make sense? If you're a viewer, and this is what I'm saying, as a viewer, if you're going to pay DAZN £25 a month, you deserve the best. Isn't what this is supposed to be about? I thought all this Turki Al Sheikh stuff was supposed to be the best and the best. Am I right or am I wrong about that? I thought since Turki Al Sheikh came into boxing and since the Saudi investment fund have now invested in DAZN, I thought boxing was supposed to be about the elite. I thought that's what it was supposed to be about, right? They want to get rid of all these belts in boxing. They want to have one title, the Ring Magazine, the elite title. So why aren't they doing the same to their coverage? You're paying £25 a month. Don't you deserve elite coverage? As a viewer, do you not deserve elite coverage? Do you not deserve to hear elite fighters commentate and give analysis on elite fights? Is that not what you deserve for your money? But they take you for an idiot. That's why they serve you up with the fucking Barry Jones. That's why they serve you up with the Darren Barker. That's what they serve you up with. I've got to be careful what I say to some other people. But this is what they serve you up with, this crap. Adam Smith. That's what they serve you up, this rubbish, because they don't think anything of you. They think you're idiots. They think you're absolute fucking morons. And the biggest sign they think you're morons is that they're still putting this fight on with no shame. No shame whatsoever. Spider Rico says, wasn't, yeah, I've heard about this. This is brilliant. Is that on YouTube, that Ben lie detector? This is the absolute highlight of how corrupt British journalism is. Look, Conor Benn, it's Ring Magazine again. Surprise, surprise. It's Ring Magazine, His Excellency. Everybody that's bowed down to His Excellency, who knows what's best for boxing, yeah? Who knows what's best for boxing? Look at this clown show. Conor Benn takes on a lie detector test. Oh, okay. Spider Rico says, why wasn't Conor asked about eggs in the lie detector test? I mean, how can you even think about having Conor Benn attached to a lie detector test and then not ask any questions about the one fucking question that people want to... I mean, do you know how embarrassing this is? Like, who at Ring Magazine actually thought that would be a good idea? Let's tie Conor Benn up onto a lie detector test. Let's put him up here on the internet for everybody to see. But let's not ask him questions about the one thing everybody wants to know if he's lied about or not. That's how fucking stupid they think you are. Like, if you don't get it now, you're never going to get it. That's how much contempt they have for the average boxing fan. They think you're less than a fucking piece of chewing gum on the sidewalk, man. That's the truth of it. So there you go. It's a joke, in my humble opinion. Let's go through final comments here. Baisha says, totally agree with everything you said 100%. Okay, I appreciate that. Let's hope there's no serious injury. I don't like either of them, and I think this fight is a farce, making money off the back of their dads. I mean, neither of these two, Ben and Eubank. Getting back to Ben and Eubank, right? Neither of these two are legends. Neither of these two are going to become legends. Neither of these two are it's a farcical in every way, shape, or form. Like these two, right? Quick question. Are either of these two world class? And let me just say this, by the way, about Conor Benn. A lot of people are predicting Conor Benn's going to knock out Chris Eubank Jr. Let me ask you a question, then we'll leave it. We'll call it a day on this show. Right? This is how stupid people are. Ever since Conor Benn failed 2 dope tests, watch his last couple of fights, right? What has he shown in those last couple of fights to make you think he can knock out Chris Eubank? Just use your brain for 1 second. You guys can see the timeline, right? Again, I'm not accusing Conor Benn of intentionally taking performance-enhancing drugs. I'm just stating facts here, yeah? Right? Conor Benn was knocking out guys like Chris Algieri and Chris Van der Heerden in a couple of rounds. He then failed 2 tests. He then had 2 fights. And in those 2 fights, all of a sudden, all of the massive knockout power that we'd seen had disappeared, right? So in those fights against Pete Dobson and the other fight he had, all of that magical KO power had disappeared, right? What is he actually showing in those last 2 fights to think that he can knock out 160-pound Chris Eubank? Where does this come from? Where does that come from? That comes from nowhere. And we'll finish up with these idiots because these... Oh, I see. He's just trying to wind me up. Oh, okay. I nearly bought it, but then I saw the thing. Somebody saying Conor Benn's being cleared. Obviously, they're not stupid enough to believe, yeah, that Conor Benn, and I'll say it now, all right? Conor Benn has never, ever been cleared, yeah, or based on any sort of scientific evidence, as far as I'm aware. And he knows that, and we know that, yeah? The NADP ruled, and this is what they ruled, right? The NADP ruled that the investigation into Conor Benn had to stop. But it wasn't clear if that was based on jurisdiction or if that was based on scientific evidence. So what I'm trying to say is this. As far as I'm aware, and please correct me if I'm wrong, got to be careful for legal reasons here. As far as I'm aware, Conor Benn has never, ever submitted any sort of scientific evidence to anybody that's then reviewed it, yeah, to the NADP or anybody that's then reviewed it and said, oh, there's a plausible reason why clomiphene was in his system twice. As far as I'm aware, that's never happened. If I'm wrong, I apologize. As far as I'm aware, that's never happened. His lawyers were arguing on jurisdiction. We know this, yeah? His lawyers were basically trying to tell the NADP that because he failed a VADA test and not a UCAD test, that UCAD didn't have the rights to sanction him. That's what we know for a fact they were going for. His lawyers were going for jurisdiction. He's never, as far as I'm aware, been scientifically cleared. And that's why every time you ask him, and that's why if you ask him or if you ask his promoter, can we see any format of this scientific evidence that you've promoted? And were you acquitted based on scientific evidence, aka did you provide a scientific explanation for how clomiphene got in your system twice, and was that scientific explanation checked, verified, and then accepted? Yeah. And there's no evidence of that ever being the case. No evidence of that ever being the case. There is evidence that his lawyers were arguing, yeah, that UCAD did not have jurisdiction to sanction him. There's a big difference between arguing that somebody doesn't have the right to punish you for failing a test and arguing that you never failed a test. And we know that the tests were correct, don't we? So, like I said before, cleared means a lot of things, isn't it? But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, there are a lot of questions that are still to answer. Dan W says, here's why in Eubank's last fight, he was being hit by, here's why in Eubank's last fight, oh, I see, here's why in Eubank's last fight, he was hit at will by a fighter who was as shot as it gets. That along with Eubank being weight drained, I think he's there for the taking. It would not surprise me if Eubank, look, I mean, we don't, how can anybody confidently predict a Eubank win? We'll get your predictions very quickly. Guys, what are your predictions for tomorrow's fight? I have no idea. How can you confidently predict the fight when we don't know the physical condition of one of the opponents? All I know is one of the guys is made weight comfortable. This is why I can't make a reliable prediction, right, on Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn. I'll tell you the reason why. Here's why, yeah? Here's why I can't pick between who's going to win. Here's why. One guy has failed 2 drugs tests, right? I don't know if this guy still has performance-enhancing drugs in his system or not. Again, I'm making it clear. I'm not accusing Conor Benn of intentionally taking performance-enhancing drugs. I'm just stating my opinion. Conor Benn has failed 2 drugs tests so far, right? I have no idea if Conor Benn has performance-enhancing drugs in his system or not. The reason I have no idea if performance-enhancing drugs are in Conor Benn's system or not is because I've had no evidence to suggest that he's been tested. Does that make sense? Press 1 if you're with me, press 2 if you're not with me. I have no idea. I have nowhere. There's nowhere I can look at where I can see, Conor Benn was tested for X, Y, and Z on this date, and this date. Now, if it was a case where somebody could provide me with something saying Conor Benn has been tested, 6 times, once a week in the last XYZ weeks run up to the fight, then I could say, okay, right. That would give me kind of a thing, well, okay, maybe I can start to have a solid prediction about who's going to win this fight because I've got a good indicator that the amount of PEDs he might have had, blah, 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 blah. Does it make sense? But so far, basic fucking questions. Has Conor Benn been tested? When was he last tested? How do we know? I'm asking you, how do we know? I don't know. Look at his opponent. His opponent today hasn't made weight, right? His opponent hasn't made weight. His opponent has not made weight. Will his opponent? We don't even know if Eubank will make the check weight tomorrow. What happens tomorrow if Eubank doesn't make 170 pounds? What are they going to find him another 500,000? Or are they going to keep? What are they going to do? What are they going to do tomorrow when he fails the check weight? Is somebody going to step into? If he fails that weight tomorrow, if he fails that 170 check weight tomorrow, which I think is possible, if he fails that 170 check weight tomorrow, what's going to happen? Are they going to call the fight off, or what? If they don't call the fight off, what position is he going to be in? So I don't understand how anybody can predict this fight. How anybody? Because if all things were even, it should be a Chris Eubank Jr. win, right? If all things were even. But all things quite clearly are not even, aren't they? Because you've got one guy again who has a history of failing PED tests. We have no idea if he's been tested at all for this fight. And if he has been tested, we don't know who's tested him. And we don't know if he was tested once before the fight, once after the fight. We have no fucking idea. So we have no idea. That's it. So you guys tell me who you think's going to win. But honestly, how can I reliably predict it? We don't know who's making weight. We don't know if Eubank's going to make weight or not. We don't know the drug testing status of his opponent. We know nothing. We know absolutely nothing. How can anybody confidently predict anything? And again, it shows you how much of a farce this fight is. It's a farce. It's a farce. Eubank has to make 170 tomorrow. He basically, Chris Eubank Jr., for those of you who weigh themselves quite regularly, right? Do you know what like fucking 10 pounds is? I can put on 10 pounds by drinking a bottle of Avian or close to. If you're dehydrated and you have a bottle of Avian, or a bottle and a half of Avian, you can put on serious amounts of weight seriously quickly. So I'd imagine Eubank Jr. is in a hotel room right now, literally sipping water to stay alive. Literally sipping water. That's what he'll be doing. If you've seen the videos of how these guys do their weight cuts, right? Eubank will be literally there. Eubank won't be sitting there with a glass. Do you understand? Chris Eubank Jr. cannot have a glass of water. Or he can, but he has to spread them out. Like he can't, he'll be literally sitting there, most likely sipping water throughout the day, giving his body the bare minimum water it needs to function, because he can't put on any more now than 10 pounds more by X amount of time tomorrow. Will he be able to do that? We don't know. If he does make the weight tomorrow, what state is he going to be in? I do know one thing. I know for a fact that he's going to be going in the ring tomorrow absolutely drained to fuck, yeah, against an opponent who has a history of failing dope tests. And what I do know for sure is that this fight is going to be completely fucking unsafe. And what I do know for sure is that everybody involved in this fight is an absolute disgrace from top to bottom. I do know that Nigel Benn's a hypocrite. I do know that Conor Benn failed 2 tests for clomiphene on 2 separate occasions. That's what I do know. Josh Ford says, I noticed at the presser that he took a sip of water, and I mean a sip. That's how they do it. Pure sip. Pure sip. He'll be sipping water, nothing else. Eubank will be there sipping water. That's what he'll be doing. He's got 12 hours of it, sipping water. I mean, his body's absolutely fucking. Do you understand? This guy couldn't even get off the last 0.2 pounds. Do you understand that? At two attempts, Eubank, he couldn't even get off the last 0.2 pounds. He just couldn't get it off. The last 0.2 pounds. His body just couldn't give it up. So look, imagine what state he's in right now. And he's got to keep his body in that state until tomorrow. For what reason? So yeah, I can't predict the fight. I can't. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Conor Benn won this fight. And like I said before, when Conor Benn wins this fight, what does it say for boxing? It's just one step, and I will leave it at this, guys. It's just one more nail, really, isn't it? It's one more nail in the coffin that is British boxing. Should we just be honest and call it how it is? Look at the state of these stables. Look at the state of the fights we're getting. You know, listen, British boxing's about to get a massive reality check, you know, in the next year or so. You think Turki Al-Sheikh is going to keep... Guys, before I go, do you think Turki Al-Sheikh is going to keep funding this garbage? What do you think he's in the business with Dana White for? You think Turki Al-Sheikh is in business with Dana White, yeah? So he's going to continue to fill up these fucking Riyadh season cards with fucking Mark Chamberlain and fucking Gavin Gwynn. Is that what you think is going to happen to these Riyadh season cards? Do you think that Turki Al-Sheikh went into business with Dana White, so he's going to continue to fill up these Riyadh season cards with Gavin Gwynn, Conor Benn, Mark Chamberlain, David Adelaide? You think that he's going to keep filling up these cards with all these domestic fighters? Is that what you think? I'm here to tell you today, there's a reason why there's a rumored fallout between Eddie Hearn and Turki Al-Sheikh. Because when you do a deal with the devil will come. It's unfair to say Turki Al-Sheikh's the devil. That's not fair. But you get what I'm saying? When you do a deal with the devil, then you better believe the devil's going to come to collect. Press 1 if you agree with me on that at least, or press 2 if you disagree. But when you do a deal with a devil, you better believe the devil's going to come to collect. And Eddie Hearn ain't stupid. Eddie Hearn knows, yeah, the days of the high times are coming to an end, boy. Them British boxing high times are coming to an end. You ain't going to see no more Gavin Gwynn, no more Conor Benn, no more David Adelaide, no more Fabio Wardley. You think Turkey's going to keep doing that? Turkey eventually is going to boot these guys out. He don't want that shit on these cards. You think Dana White wants that garbage on his card? You think Dana White's going to make a phone call to Martin Bakole and say, yo, Martin Bakole, I want you to make a journey all across from Congo to Saudi Arabia? Mrs. Ultra, text me, let me know who you are, please. You think that's what's going to happen? You think Martin Bakole is going to be getting calls? Mate, they're going to be stepping it up a level. They're going to be dealing with Canelos, Crawfords, Spences, that level of fighter. Do you understand? That's what they're going to be dealing with. Fury, Usyk, Spence, Crawford, Inoue, Bivol, Beterbiev. That's what they'll be dealing with worldwide. Trust me when I say this. Dana White ain't making the call to none of these UK fighters. The paydays are going to be coming to an end, you know. Them paydays are going to be coming to an end. Eddie Hearn knows what time it is. That's why he's all upset with Turki Al-Sheikh, you know. That's why he's all upset with Turki Al-Sheikh. That's why them two of them had a falling out, because Eddie Hearn knows that gravy train's over. But you already hear him talking about someone coming in to buy Matchroom Boxing, and you can kind of see maybe he's going to exit anyway. Yeah? Talking about, you know, we get a buy for Matchroom Boxing. I think Eddie Hearn's pretty much at the end of the road anyway. I mean, before we go, look, if you don't believe me, and I know you guys don't believe me, look, I told you you could see this coming a mile off about this Turki Al-Sheikh guy. People making fucking rap songs bumming this guy, talking about Turkey, inshallah, Turkey, ooh la la. Well, ooh la la. Let's have a look at Matchroom schedule. Eubank versus Benn. Look at this state of an event. Look at this garbage. You've got this main event, which is a farce, but everybody wants to see it, right? And then after that, look, we've got Liam Smith versus Aaron McKenna. Nobody gives a rat's ass fuck about this garbage. Vidal Riley and Chevron Clark is a good domestic level fight. Look at this fucking shit. The Inquisition. Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. Look at this. Making a main event in the UK. Can you fucking believe this is main eventing in the UK? Do you guys now believe me when I tell you that these Saudi paydays will be coming to an end soon for British boxing? These guys are going to be fighting soon. Listen, the glory days for British boxing are over. These guys are going to be fighting for a fucking tin of smoked eels and a bag of chips soon if this carries on. Look at this. Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen headlining on a Matchroom card. The so-called premier promotion in the world of boxing. Look at this absolute garbage. George Liddard versus Aaron Sutton. Kieran Conway versus Jerome Warburton. Look at this garbage. Look at this. Look at this TBC, TBC, TBC. Look at this. Garbage. 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 This is why he heard. You think Turki Al-Sheikh is going to be bankrolled in this absolute shite? Turki and Dana White ain't bankrolling this shit, mate. Turki and fucking Dana White won't bankrupt this. Ain't going to be bankrolling this Matchroom trash no more. Trust me on that. Shabazz Massoud versus Peter McGrail. Let me tell you something. On Riyadh season, this will not be. Galalia 5 versus Francisco Rodriguez. Mate, that's why Eddie and Turki are falling out. They ain't bankrolling this shit no more. They used Matchroom and Queensbury as a vehicle to get into the sport and deal with the Anthony Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, the Alexander Usyks, and all these other fighters. And now they're just going to take the rest over. What do you guys think? Yes or no? Am I right about that or wrong? They just use Matchroom and Queensbury as a vehicle to get involved, see how to run a promotion, see what's going on, get access to the Tyson Furies, you know, get access to the Anthony Joshuas. What the fuck does Turki Al-Sheikh need to speak to Eddie Hearn for? He'll just call Anthony Joshua direct. He'll just call Anthony Joshua direct. Same with Tyson Fury. Just call Tyson Fury direct. You've seen Turki FaceTiming these guys direct. If he wants to speak to Anthony Joshua, just pick up the phone and call Anthony Joshua. Fuck does he need Eddie Hearn for? What does he need Eddie Hearn for? They don't need for nothing. Like I said before, man. When you deal with the devil, yeah, you better make sure, yeah, you better know in it. That man always comes to collect. Look, guys, I appreciate it. And Turki Al-Sheikh, like I said before, we don't know he's the devil. That's a bit over the top. But you get what I'm saying, yeah? You get what I'm saying, innit? This is what happens, right? When you have no principles and you do anything for money, isn't it? Isn't it? We'll leave it at that, guys, isn't it? Like, you see me, right? I personally, people have a lot of bad things to say about me. But one thing nobody can ever say about me is that I do things for money, right? In general, right, I don't do things for money other than work a job, right? But you can see here, with this guy Turki Al-Sheikh, right? You're going to see things in boxing that you don't want to see. That's all I'm going to say. Because this guy Turki Al-Sheikh is a disaster who knows absolutely next to nothing about the sport of boxing. And you guys know that, right? We guys can all agree on that, yeah? Turki Al-Sheikh knows nothing about the sport of boxing. You guys know this, yeah? He knows nothing about boxing, can't box, no background in boxing. Turki Al-Sheikh is a rich fan. We can all agree on that, yeah? That Turki Al-Sheikh is a fan who has a lot of money available to him, right? That's what he is, right? He's not a boxing guy. He's not a boxing brain. He's never built a promotion. He's never built a stable. He's never built anything. What he's done is he has a lot of money fronted to him, right? By MBS. He has a lot of money fronted to him, and then he's used that money to bring in other promoters, fighters, and make shows. He's got no experience in building anything from the ground up or doing anything from the ground up. He's got no experience of that whatsoever. So just be wary. Be wary of Turkey, because this guy has no idea about anything. But like I said before, you'll see. You'll see here. You'll see. All right, guys. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe. And so for tomorrow, Eubank versus Benn, I'm not planning to go live. I am not planning to go live for the main event, but I am planning to go live for the aftermath. So the plan is to have a live show straight after the main event. So if you'd like to hear my opinions on the main event, who won, who didn't win, the whys and the whats, please feel free to tune in. I'm hoping to join you, as I said, immediately after the main event. We'll spin up a live and we'll see what's going on. And also, hopefully, we'll bring some guests on, maybe on separate shows. But I'm hoping to hear from Shevin, Tony, and hopefully we can do a separate show on this with Ryan as well. So hopefully some content up and coming for you. You may not like me, yeah, but you have to admit, let's be honest, innit? I tell it how it is. Let's be honest, innit? I tell it how it is. If you want to hear that watered down crap, if you want to hear that other crap, you know where else to go. But let's be honest, no one else in British boxing is asking these questions because, do you know what I mean? We all know what's going on, isn't it? Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.